Let's bring in David. David, what's your take on Arsenal's £75 million move for Caicedo? Are they willing to spend big at this stage?
Well, I think Sam Dean's story in the Telegraph tonight is saying that they're considering it, and if they decide to go forward with it. So clearly, Caicedo is a player who Arsenal like. The same with Chelsea, as we've seen. They had a £55 million bid rejected, a formal offer last week. There has been reported interest from Liverpool and others, but Brighton have been steadfast in their view that he's not going anywhere in this transfer window, and it would take a hell of a lot more than Chelsea's £55 million bid to even tempt them to consider selling him. So if 75 is the area that Arsenal are looking to go to, that's higher than their rivals. And, you know, they've got money, clearly, given that they went in even higher for Mykhailo Mudryk, who ended up going from Shakhtar Donetsk to Chelsea. But I would hazard a guess that he's most likely to stay at Brighton in this particular window, because I just don't see clubs going to the level of expenditure it will take for Brighton to part with him. He's under a long contract. He has changed agents, and so that representation will most likely see him edge towards a possible move at some point, whether it's in January or the summer. But I think it would be unlikely at this stage that Arsenal will manage to pull it off, although they do want to invest or recruit, at least, in their midfield, whether it be a permanent or a loan deal, given that it seems Mohamed El-Neni has suffered an injury setback in training. So certainly in the last days of the window, that midfield area is one to watch. And Sam is a really good journalist on the Arsenal beat. So, of course, this is something we should definitely keep an eye on. There were reports 24 hours earlier that Brighton want 100 million if they're going to part with Caicedo. And so that's the sort of steepness of the task at hand.
Yeah, Sam Dean references that Brighton sold Marc Cucurella to Chelsea in a £60 million deal, and hence perhaps want more for Moises Caicedo. Let's look at the back page of The Guardian, continuing this theme then, and references what you mentioned there, David. Mikel Arteta admits El-Neni injury may force move for midfielder. It seems significant, doesn't it? Mikel Arteta is very open about the importance of shoring up this midfield position.
Yeah, definitely. And the fear among Arsenal fans, I'm sure everybody at the club as well, is what happens if there's an injury to Thomas Partey. In more recent times, his injury record in terms of his Arsenal career has been much improved, and that will be a massive relief. Granit Xhaka has always been very durable as well. Sambi Lokonga hasn't done so well when he's come in, and so the feeling at the club was that they're sufficient with El-Neni there, and that should provide the cover that will allow them to kick on in the transfer market for attacking players. Hence the move for Mudryk that ended up being a move for Trossard. They've also bought in Kivior from Spezia in Italy. And there are some suggestions that although he's a left-sided centre-back, he can go into midfield if needed. But the injury to El-Neni has clearly changed the thinking at Arsenal. We actually saw similar at the end of the summer window when they had been pursuing a wide attacker throughout the summer that ended up being Pedro Neto as the top target. They'd considered Rafinha and others previously. But when it emerged that deal would be too difficult and expensive, they switched their focus to a holding midfielder. That took the form of Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa. They didn't manage to do it, but they pushed quite hard on deadline day, if you remember. And it seems that they've pivoted again this time. Now that they've got backup in attack in the form of Trossard, it's now that midfield area that they're going to be focusing on. So it'll be very interesting to see if they're going to spend heavily or whether they maybe take a loan and then look to invest in the summer. There have been very strong reports linking them with Declan Rice. There is a lot of admiration for him at the Emirates Stadium and elsewhere. And there's going to be a lot of midfielders potentially on the move, with Jude Bellingham in that mix as well for the summer, Enzo Fernandez, the likes of Edson Alvarez at Ajax too. So really that is the position now. Alexis McAllister, Romeo Lavia, the list goes on.
Yeah, and also referenced by Jacob Steinberg in that piece on The Guardian, Everton's Amadou Onana, which would complicate pictures for Everton even more, and the possibility of a move for Juventus, Weston McKennie. We'll see what happens at Arsenal.